Good heavens, attacks on tea? That's outrageous. Ah, we shall fight back. Nathaniel, take the officers first. You know how to tell the difference, right? Aim small, miss small. Move out, boys. Tally-ho! Ah, good heavens. Nathaniel, hold up. Somebody texted me. Welcome to Oz Homestead. It's me, Mark, again, and guess what we got going on today? We have hunting season in our midst right now in Virginia. We got bow season going on right now, and I've been out a few times, seen a good amount of deer, but they just never got within range for me to take a comfortable shot. So we're going to get ready for the next big thing that's going on this hunting season. Starting November 1st, muzzleloader season starts. So, and if you guys know anything about, the heck was that? If you guys know anything about our farming practices, we like to do everything traditional, right? Traditional methods, more natural, all those things. So I've been really anxious to get out there and hunt this year with this thing, the Perdersoli Scout in 50 caliber, and it is Flintlock, which means that you got a rock right here that strikes a steel, puts sparks down into this pan where you have your powder. Your main charge is down here, and the projectile comes out the front. So we got to get this thing sighted in. We got a target set up at 25 yards, and we're just going to see where it's patterning, where it's shooting, so we can get an idea, and then we'll push out to 50 and maybe even 80 yards just to see where we're hitting so that we're ready for deer November 1st. I've got my fancy little powder horn. I probably look like a super nerd right now. I'm ready to meet the British at Yorktown, but let's see what we can do with this thing. So I'm a fan of using what's called paper cartridges, and what paper cartridges are is literally paper that contains your projectile and enough powder to prime the pan and put down the muzzle, put the ball on top, and then fire out the weapon. So we're not using that. This is actually for one of my fowling guns, a 62 caliber, so 20 gauge smooth bore that no longer works. So I'm not going to be using this. So we're going to load the boring way, which is just, and since we're just shooting right now, using my Kawasaki Mule as a kind of stand, it's not really that big a deal. So what we're going to start off with, I got my powder measure, and let's just talk about the projectiles we're going to use. We're going to use these 350 grain Maxi Hunters, and so what these are conical kind of rounds, and they've got a little bit of lube in the grooves there, and it's a 350 grain projectile with a hollow point. These are really good for hunting. I just don't know how they're going to perform in this particular rifle. So if it doesn't work out, then we're just going to use regular round ball, these 50 caliber lead projectiles right here. So if those Maxi Hunters don't work or they don't perform as expected, then we'll go to those round balls. But for right now, we're going to load up one of these guys. So in order to do that, got our powder measure here. 60 grains is what we're going to start off with. And we're going to take the powder from our powder horn. We're going to fill this guy up. In 1814, we took a little trip along Colonel Declan down the mountain of Mississippi. All right. And this is just 2F Swiss powder. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and pour this down the muzzle. So we got 60 grains by volume of powder. We've got our 350 grain projectile. I'm gonna go ahead and seat that on the bore. Now what we're gonna need is a ball starter. So what this does is it just helps get that projectile down the barrel a little bit before you take out your ramrod and seat that projectile at the bottom. What I like to do, make sure it's down there. So you want to take your ramrod and throw it against the bottom. If it bounces, that's how you know that your projectile is seated. And you want to make sure that your projectile is seated all the way on top of that powder, nice and tight. All right, so now we have a loaded firearm, but we don't have any powder in here, and we need the powder to make it go bang. So let's go ahead and get this primed up and fire. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and prime. So I'm gonna take this little priming thingamajig here, and what it does is it puts a little bit of powder little bit of powder in that pan. And then you just close the prism. That's what it's called, the prism, this thing. Steel, that's what the rock strikes against. The flint creates that spark and it ignites your main powder charge. So, woo, here it comes. All right, I got my set trigger in the back. So I hit that set trigger, and that turns the front trigger into a hair trigger. Get it locked in here, and let's go ahead and try it out. Woo! All right, we're about 6 inches low and about 2 inches to the left. Let's go ahead and fire another round. Boo! Oh my gracious. All right, got our 60 grains. 60 grains down the muzzle. Go ahead and take our projectile. Woo! Drop one. All right. Ball starter. Ramrod. It's bouncing, so we're good to go. Return the rammer. All right, now all we got to do is prime and fire. Got our little bit of powder there. We are at full cock now. Oh, flash in the pan. Now these things aren't normally that finicky, but because I have a weak flint on here. All right, for this last shot, we got 2 here. Those are the ones that are low. It's actually not too bad of a group for a flintlock. But I put 50 grains of powder for this last shot, so let's see where this one ends up. All right, so that was even more low. I didn't know what kind of change in point of impact I would get by reducing by 10 grains, but let's go ahead and increase to 70 grains. That's gonna be tough on my shoulder with such a heavy bullet. Let's increase to 70 grains and see what kind of group we get. And then if that doesn't really work out, I don't want to mess with my sights. I don't want to file anything down to increase that distance or that point of impact. I just don't want to mess with it. So we'll go ahead and try this, the regular round balls, and see how that works out. But we got these 3 marked. Let's go ahead and increase to 70 grains of powder and see what kind of group we get. The point of impact hasn't really shifted. That is a pretty good group for a flintlock at 25 yards rifle. I'm gonna go ahead and try the patch round balls. That's a much lighter projectile. I think only 160 grains, maybe a little bit more. I don't really remember. But I'm gonna try patched round ball and see if we can't get a better point of impact. All right, so for these patched round balls, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use 70 grains of powder. Always want to make sure that you put your cap back on your powder horn there so you don't have a grenade. "70 grains down the tube." And what a patched round ball is since the round ball has to be smaller than the bore diameter, you got to use a patch to kind of catch that rifling and make everything a smooth operation. So take our ball starter. So that's already down the barrel a little bit. We're going to take it the rest of the way with the ramrod. That's a nice tight fit there. It is seated home. We turned our rammer. All right, I went ahead and put a new flint on as well. So let's get this primed up. Spicy. Oh, much better. All right, so 70 grains of the patch round ball, right on target at 25 yards. I got these rounds marked. Let's back up to, I don't know, like 60 or 70 yards. All right, we're back at like 75 yards from the target down there. We're gonna try our 70 grains of black powder. Precious, precious powder. Got to cap our horn, pour that down the pipe. Get our patch and our round ball. There's our ball starter. All started. Now we got our ramrod. I know some of you actual muzzleloader shooters are going to be like, you should have a steel ramrod for when you're doing this. Man, you're right, but I don't. Okay, cool. So we're loaded up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually not going to shoot at that paper target. I'm going to shoot at a steel gong. It's probably like an 8-inch steel gong, just to make things a little bit more interesting. Paper's already pretty shot up anyways, although I did mark the target. All right, so we're good to go. Full cock. All right, y'all. I think she's ready to hunt. It's pretty thick woods around here, so, you know, 75, 80 yards is probably the max shot that I would take. Performing the way I want it to. I definitely have what it takes to put a deer down with this thing, so pretty happy. Well, if you guys like hunting, you guys like the outdoors, you like homesteading, farming, all the things, that's what we got going on here. So if you like that stuff, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.